There is a quiet truth that rides on the breath of the morning wind, that waits in the stillness between heartbeats, that calls to you not with thunder but with a whisper, and it says, ever so gently, you are loved. Not someday, not conditionally, not when you've proven yourself, but now. Now in this sacred moment as you are, without adornment or justification, you are deeply and infinitely loved by the very fabric of life itself. The universe is not a distant spectator to your pain or your joy. It is the womb from which you were born and the arms into which you are always being called home. But here's the truth that most miss. This love is not something you earn. It is something you receive. It is not granted in exchange for your striving, your achievements, or your perfection. It is given freely, eternally, and abundantly. The only requirement is your openness. To open is to soften. To receive is to remember. You do not become worthy of divine love. You awaken to the reality that you were never apart from it. We have been trained to believe that we must chase love, manufacture worth, prove our belonging, but the soul does not subscribe to such scarcity. The soul knows only abundance. The soul is like a flower that never questions the sun. It simply opens, and the light pours in. So why then do we hesitate to open? Why do we clench our fists and tighten our hearts against the very grace we long for? Because we have mistaken safety for control. We have learned to close ourselves as a form of protection, believing that the world is hostile, that love is rare, that trust is dangerous. But this illusion of separation is the only real suffering. To believe that you must do something to be loved is to forget the nature of the infinite. The Tao does not need your performance. God does not require your resume. The universe does not tally your successes or your failures. It simply asks, will you let me in? And in that letting in that sacred surrender, life begins to change, not because you have altered the world, but because you have finally aligned with it. You are not meant to bend the river of life to your will. You are meant to flow with it, to let it carry you, to trust that its current knows your destination, even when your mind does not. When you stop pushing against the stream, when you stop demanding that life look a certain way before you let yourself feel peace, then and only then do you awaken to the great paradox. Everything you thought you needed to control was already being held by a wisdom far greater than your fear. You are like the branch trying to hold up the tree. You are like the candle trying to light the sundae. You are already part of a greater harmony. Your task is not to direct it, but to trust it, to open your heart like a window and allow the breeze of grace to enter. Jesus said, ask and it shall be given, seek and ye shall find, knock and the door shall be opened. But what he did not say yet, implied in every breath, is that you must also be willing to receive. The door of grace swings wide, but you must walk through. The universe pours blessings into your life, but you must hold out your hands. You must dare to believe not in your ego's narrative, but in your soul's truth, that you are already enough to be loved fully and without hesitation. You see, the sun does not wait for the flower to bloom before it shines. It shines, and in that light, the flower remembers how to open. In the same way, the universe does not wait for you to be perfect. It simply loves. It simply radiates. It simply offers. And the miracle happens the moment you stop resisting, the moment you stop shrinking, the moment you stop pretending that you are not already whole. To receive love is to allow your being to return to its natural state. Children do not question their worthiness to be held. Trees do not wonder if they've earned the rain. The stars do not feel shame for shining. Why then should you? Let this be the day you stop apologizing for existing. Let this be the hour you stop explaining your beauty to a world that has forgotten its own. Let this be the moment you open without defense to the flood of light that has never stopped trying to reach you. There is a divine intelligence that knows your name without needing to hear it. It has counted your tears without keeping score. It has walked beside you in the silent corridors of your grief, and it has rejoiced in the quiet victories you never thought to celebrate. This intelligence, this love, does not reside in the sky above you or the ground beneath you. It lives within you. It breathes as you. It pulses through your very cells. And its only request is that you stop long enough to feel it. Pause, breathe, feel. This is not a transaction. This is a homecoming. And yet the ego will resist. It will say, I am not ready. I must first heal. I must first achieve. I must first deserve. But the soul whispers, you are already ready. You are already healed in your essence. You are already whole. Open now. Open while afraid. Open in the midst of uncertainty. Open because love is not postponed, it is present. Even the act of breathing is a testament to receiving. You cannot exhale if you do not first inhale. Life itself is an invitation to receive before you give, to be filled before you pour, to be loved before you love. And when you live this way, when you open to the stream, instead of resisting it, you begin to radiate a different frequency. One of trust, one of grace, one of quiet power that needs no armor. Others feel it in your presence even if they don't understand why. You become like a fire in the dark, not loud, not forceful, but steady, warm, unshakable. You do not preach this love, you embody it. You do not explain it, you express it. You do not seek it, you become it. And in becoming it, you give others permission to do the same. This is how the world is healed, not through ideology or noise, but through open hearts living in alignment with truth. Do not underestimate the power of a heart fully open to love. It can disarm fear. It can transmute pain. It can lift the veil of forgetfulness that keeps so many asleep. And so I ask you now, not from my mind, but from the eternal place in me that sees the eternal in you, will you open? Will you receive not just the good days, but the ordinary ones? Not just the light, but the lessons in shadow. Not just the blessings, but the mystery behind them. The universe is not waiting to love you, it already does. It's waiting for you to believe it. And when you do, life will not become perfect, but it will become sacred. You will begin to see the divine not only in mountaintops and sunsets, but in the mirror, in your flaws, in your longing, in your laughter, in your silence, in your stumbling toward the light. The universe loves you. You are already enough. You are already home. Just open and receive. And when you begin to live in this sacred receiving, something subtle yet profound starts to shift. The way you look at the world changes not because the world has softened, but because you have. You become porous to grace. The moments that once passed you by unnoticed now shimmer with significance. The ordinary becomes drenched in wonder. A raindrop on your skin, the hush of twilight, the still gaze of a stranger, each becomes a doorway into the infinite. You are no longer racing to reach life's summit. You are learning to savor the climb. Not because the climb is easy, but because your heart is open enough to see that every step, even the weary ones, carries the hand of God. You no longer pray only for answers, you pray to awaken. You pray not to be spared from pain, but to be deepened by it. And in that prayer, you stop negotiating with life. You begin to trust it. There is a peace that comes not from the absence of chaos, but from the presence of surrender. It is the peace of knowing that you do not need to figure it all out, that you are not the architect of the entire cosmos, that you are the vessel, not the vessel maker. And when you truly receive that, knowing not as a concept, but as a living reality, it unburdens you in ways words cannot express. You walk lighter, not because your path is easier, but because your spirit is no longer carrying what was never yours to hold. You speak more truthfully, not because you have mastered every word, but because you have allowed your voice to rise from a place deeper than certainty, a place called presence. Presence is not passive, it is profoundly creative. It is the space in which the divine paints your life in colors your ego could never imagine. To live in presence is to co-create with the universe, to be in rhythm with a wisdom that sees beyond your temporary wants and leads you toward your eternal becoming. And oh, how tender this becoming island. It does not shout, it does not demand. It unfolds like petals opening to the sun, each layer revealing a more authentic version of you, one that does not seek applause but alignment, one that does not hunger for validation but rests in the quiet joy of being true. This truth is not static. It breathes with you. It evolves as you evolve. It speaks in the language of the soul, which is never rigid, never forceful. It moves like music heard through the heart, not the ears. And the more you tune in, the more you begin to recognize it in everything, in the patterns of the leaves, in the pauses between words, in the aching beauty of your own breath. The soul does not measure time the way the mind does. It is not in a hurry. It does not fear delays. It does not keep score. The soul knows that even when you feel lost, you are being guided. That even when doors close, you are being redirected. That even in the stillness, something sacred is ripening within you. So do not fear the seasons of quiet. Do not resist the in-between. These are not voids to be filled, but spaces to be honored. The caterpillar does not resent the cocoon, it surrenders to it. Trust that something holy is always at work beneath what appears to be nothing. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. Prepared to receive not just more, but deeper. Not just answers, but wisdom. Not just relief, but revelation. And the revelation is this: you were never separate from the light you seek. You were only taught to close your eyes. But the eyes of the soul never shut. And when you begin to see with them, you stop looking for signs, because your whole life becomes one. Every encounter, every heartbreak, every unexpected turn, they all begin to feel like sacred choreography, drawing you closer to the only truth that matters. You are not alone in this. You never were, and you never will be. So rest, beloved soul, not in resignation, but in trust. Let your heart be soft. Let your hands be open. Let your life be a quiet testament to the truth that the universe does not abandon its own. It carries you. It speaks through you. It lives as you. And it loves you not because of what you've done, but because of who you are. Just keep opening, keep receiving, keep remembering. And as you remain open, moment by moment, breath by breath, you begin to feel something ancient and unshakable return to its rightful throne within you. It is not a sensation like happiness, nor a fleeting wave of excitement. It is deeper. It is quieter. It is the remembrance of your own sacred rhythm. A rhythm that has always been there, even beneath the static of the world. A rhythm that does not speed up for anyone's expectations or slow down for anyone's approval. It moves like the tide, steady and eternal, asking nothing but your presence. In that rhythm, fear begins to dissolve, not by force, but by understanding. For fear only survives where love has been forgotten. And now, with every soft moment of receiving, with every sacred pause where you allow yourself to be held by life rather than hold it all together, love begins to occupy the empty spaces where fear once made its home. Not dramatic, not explosive, but gently, thoroughly, like morning light spilling through a once-shuttered room. You stop needing to rush into the future because you trust the ground beneath your feet now. You stop needing the world to reflect your worth because your worth becomes a felt experience, not a concept. It is no longer an idea you chase, but a truth you inhabit. The kind of truth that anchors you like a tree, rooted deep in unseen soil. Winds may come, seasons may change, but you stand. Not because you are unmoved, but because your essence is held by something far more enduring than circumstance. And in this groundedness, your relationships begin to shift. You no longer seek others to complete what feels missing. You meet them from fullness. You no longer beg to be seen, you see yourself. And so you grant others that same blessing, the gift of being fully received without agenda, without control. Just presence, meeting presence. Soul, recognizing soul. This is the holy space where real love lives. Not the kind that clings or fixes or seeks to be rescued, but the love that flows naturally from an open vessel. The love that says, I do not need you to change so I can feel safe. I am already safe in the truth of who I am. From this place, love is no longer an exchange, it is an overflow. And your creations too begin to take on new life. You no longer create from pressure or performance, but from listening. You listen to what wants to be born through you, and you trust it. You trust that inspiration is not something to manufacture, it is something to welcome. You stop trying to impress the world and begin to express your soul. Your art, your words, your work, your silence, it all becomes sacred when it comes from alignment, not approval. Even your challenges begin to shimmer with purpose. You no longer ask, why is this happening to me? But instead, what part of me is being invited to awaken through this? You no longer see your wounds as evidence of failure, but as sacred ground where compassion grows. You meet your own suffering not with judgment, but with reverence. Like a mother holding a crying child, you hold your pain close, not to fix it, but to love it into wholeness. This is how you become a healer, not by having all the answers, but by becoming a space where the sacred can unfold. A space where people feel safe to take off their masks, not because you told them to, but because yours was already removed. A space where truth doesn't need to be spoken loudly to be heard. It radiates from the stillness of your presence. And oh, how deeply the world needs that stillness now. Not more noise, not more strategies, but more souls willing to live as lighthouses rather than lifeguards. Souls who remember that their presence is enough to illuminate the dark, that their being grounded, open, surrendered is the medicine this aching world is longing for. But to offer that medicine, you must continue to receive it. This is the paradox. You cannot pour from depletion and expect to nourish. You cannot give what you are unwilling to accept. So you become the sacred student of your own wholeness. You become the receiver of your own love. Not once, not occasionally, but constantly. Each morning you wake not asking what needs to be done, but what wants to be received. And as you receive, you are filled not just with strength, but with softness. Not just with knowledge, but with wisdom. Not just with energy, but with essence. And it is from that essence that your life begins to whisper its truest song, a song that only you can sing. A song that was placed within your soul before time, and that has waited patiently for you to stop trying to become and simply start being. Not perfectly, not all at once, but honestly, gently, receptively. The universe has not been asking you to work harder. It has been asking you to open wider. And now you are ready, because the moment you truly open, the veil lifts not the veil that hides the world from your eyes, but the veil that hid you from yourself. And what is revealed is not some distant destiny, but the truth that was always humming beneath your skin, that you are not just worthy of love, you are the very expression of it. Not a vessel to be filled, but a flame to be remembered. And so you begin to live differently, not because you've been told how to live, but because you've touched something so real, so alive within you that you can no longer betray it. You can no longer pretend you are small when you have felt the vastness within. You can no longer act from fear when you have tasted the freedom of trust. You can no longer bow to the false gods of success, perfection, and performance when you have bowed before the altar of your own being and seen the face of the divine looking back. This is not a one-time awakening. This is not a grand epiphany that solves everything. It is a moment-by-moment remembrance, a daily surrender, 1,000 quiet choices to stay open, to stay soft, to stay receptive to a love that does not need your strength, but your vulnerability. A love that does not arrive with thunder, but slips in with the silence. A love that needs only one thing to thrive in you, your willingness to allow it. And oh, how radical that allowing is in a world that tells you to harden, to guard, to control, but you are no longer interested in guarding what no longer needs to be defended. You are no longer interested in controlling a life that flows more beautifully when you release your grip. You are no longer interested in proving anything, because the moment you receive the truth of who you are, there is nothing left to prove. You begin to walk into each day like a prayer, not the kind that pleads, but the kind that praises. Not the kind that asks for more, but the kind that says thank you for what already island. Every breath becomes a hallelujah. Every act, no matter how small, becomes sacred when performed from alignment. Washing your hands, holding a door, listening fully. These become portals to grace when you are present enough to recognize the divine in them. You no longer need to perform spirituality, you become it. Not because of what you do, but because of how you see. You see with the eyes of the soul now. Eyes that do not judge, but understand. Eyes that do not categorize, but bless. You see the same source in the bird and the beggar, the ocean and the tear, the newborn child and the withered hand. And in this seeing, your life becomes a hymn to unity. Division no longer makes sense when you have felt the one. Comparison dissolves when you've remembered the wholeness. You stop measuring your journey against another's because you know that the universe custom wrote your path like a love letter from the infinite. And even when you do not understand its words, you trust its author. Yes, even when the path feels steep, even when the winds howl, even when the questions outweigh the answers. You trust not because it is easy, but because it is true. You trust not because there are no more storms, but because you've discovered the I within them, the place where peace lives, unmoved, untouched, unshaken. And that peace is no longer something you seek, it is something you carry. It goes with you into rooms heavy with tension and lightens the air. It goes with you into conversations and transforms them into connection. It walks beside you into your fears and reminds you that light is not the absence of darkness, but the refusal to abandon yourself in the midst of it. This is the gift of receiving. You become what you once thought you lacked. You become the love you longed for. You become the peace you prayed for. You become the clarity you searched for in 1,000 books and 1,000,000 voices. And once you've tasted this becoming, you do not return to sleep. You do not return to the illusion that anything outside of you can ever substitute for what is within. You do not return to the bargain of, if I achieve, then I am worthy. That contract has been burned in the fire of truth. You have signed a new one, now a covenant not with the world, but with your soul. And that soul speaks in a language older than words. It speaks through resonance, through beauty, through presence. It does not shout. It does not rush. It says simply, here I am, always. Will you meet me here? And you will, again and again. Because you've remembered that the universe was never waiting for you to become anything. It was simply waiting for you to receive everything you already are. And now that you've remembered, the very cadence of your days begins to shift. It's not that life becomes simpler sometimes. It will still challenge you, stretch you, press you against the edges of your comfort, but it no longer overwhelms you because you no longer meet life as someone lost trying to get somewhere. You meet it as someone found, someone rooted, someone who knows the terrain of their soul and trusts its wisdom more than the noise of passing winds. You stop striving to make each moment significant, and instead you allow each moment to show you its inherent holiness. You stop needing proof of your path because the alignment you feel inside is proof enough. When the inner voice says yes, you walk even if no one else understands. When it says wait, you pause without apology, without justification. And when it says nothing at all, you learn to rest in the silence, knowing that stillness is not emptiness, but the sacred womb from which new knowing is born. The old self, the one who chased and doubted and braced for impact, still appears at times. But now, you recognize it as a visitor, not the host. You offer it compassion, not control. You sit with it like a gentle friend who no longer needs to fix you because you no longer mistake your thoughts for your truth. You are the sky now, and these passing clouds, these fears, judgments, urgencies no longer define the vastness of your being. And in this spaciousness, the future no longer frightens you. You do not need to see every step ahead because you walk with presence, not with plans. Your life becomes less like a script and more like a song you do not need to compose ahead of time because its melody arises in the moment. And this melody, this quiet vibration of love that emanates from your very presence, touches more lives than you will ever know. You become a sanctuary not because you have no wounds, but because you have stopped hiding them. Not because you are flawless, but because your wholeness is not defined by the absence of pain. It is revealed in your ability to love through it. You become the place where others remember their own light, not because you told them what to do, but because your way of being reminds them of who they are. You do not need to fix the world. You do not need to convince, convert, or crusade. You only need to radiate, to breathe, to trust that your alignment, your stillness, your openness is enough to shift the energy around you in ways unseen and immeasurable. You understand now that healing is not about never being broken. It is about knowing in your deepest being that nothing true in you has ever been broken. The essence of you has never been touched by fear, never been scarred by failure, never been dimmed by doubt. It has only been veiled, and now the veil is lifting. And with it, the ache of seeking begins to dissolve, not because you've stopped growing, but because you've stopped resisting the pace and path of your own unfolding. You trust that what is yours will not miss you. You trust that love, when it flows from alignment, cannot be taken away. You trust that the blessings meant for you will arrive not through striving, but through surrender. You move through the world with the quiet grace of one who is no longer chasing the light, but carrying it. You do not impose your truth, you embody it. You do not need to persuade, you radiate. And your life without effort becomes a lighthouse for others who are still remembering the way. This is the gift of receiving. You become the very source you once sought. You become the love the world is waiting for. Not someday, not once you've done more, become more, proven more, but now because you've opened, now because you've surrendered, now because the universe has always loved you, and finally you have loved yourself enough to receive it. And now, as we arrive at the quiet edge of this journey, not a destination, but a soft arrival within the truth rests in you like a still lake beneath the stars. Not because all questions have been answered, but because something more profound has occurred. You have become the answer. Not the answer to the mind's inquiries, but to the soul's yearning. Not the solution to the world's noise, but the silence that makes the noise irrelevant. Not the hero of a quest for approval, but the witness of a miracle already unfolding, the miracle of you, awakened, aware, and unafraid to simply be. You see, the greatest freedom is not found in the absence of burden, but in the realization that you were never the one carrying it. The moment you stepped aside, the moment you stopped trying to force life to fit into your idea of how it should be, life revealed how deeply it was always for you, never against you. You do not need to ascend to some higher place to touch the sacred. You have already touched it by opening your heart to this breath, this moment, this now. You have come home, not to a future version of yourself, but to the quiet truth that was waiting beneath the noise all along. You have discovered that the universe was not a mystery to be solved, but a beloved to be embraced. And oh, how it has longed for you to know this. How patiently it waited, not in judgment, but in tenderness. Every delay was not punishment, it was preparation. Every heartache was not a curse, it was a doorway. Every longing was not lack, it was love disguised as a question, leading you back to the place where no answers are needed, where being is enough. You were never too late. You were never too far gone. You were simply gathering the pieces of yourself that you had scattered across time, believing you had to become something, someone, somewhere before you were worthy of coming home. But now the gathering is complete. Now the searching is stilled. Now the flower has opened not because it was forced, but because the light was finally received. And so you walk on, not elevated above life, but deeply woven into its fabric. You laugh, you cry, you stumble, you rise, not because you are enlightened, but because you are real. You no longer wear the mask of perfection, but the radiance of presence. The world will still move, as it does fast, loud, uncertain, but you will move through it differently, with soft eyes, with a quiet soul, with a heart that no longer asks, "What do I lack?" but instead whispers, "How can I give from the fullness I now know?" This is the return, not to something outside of you, but to the vastness within. You have not become something new, you have remembered who you've always been beneath the forgetting, and from that remembering you live. You live with gentleness, because you know everyone is carrying what they can't quite name. You live with reverence, because you see the sacred in everything. You live with love, not as a duty, but as your natural state. And when life brings its waves, as it surely will, you no longer panic. You no longer brace. You become the ocean again. Deep, moved, but never destroyed. This is your birthright. Not to be someone else, but to be fully, freely, fearlessly you. The universe has never stopped loving you. And now, you love yourself enough to receive it. So rest now, not in exhaustion, but in grace. Walk on, not to prove anything, but to express everything. And let the song of your soul be heard, not in volume, but in truth. For the truth has never been far. It has always been within, and now you remember. And now you are free. There is a moment often silent, often unannounced, when the soul begins to whisper a sacred truth the mind has long avoided. You cannot move forward holding on. And in that whisper is a thunder louder than any storm, for it is the voice of awakening calling you back to the freedom of your own becoming. You see, life does not wait for us to be ready. It flows like a river, unconcerned with the rocks we clutch along its shore. And yet, how many of us grasp tightly to the stones of yesterday, old grievances, worn identities, familiar pain, believing that somehow, by holding tighter, we will find safety. But safety is not found in the past. It is discovered only in the now, when you let go of what no longer serves your becoming. We are conditioned to carry memories like armor, carry blame like a badge, carry regret like it defines us. But the soul was not born to carry, it was born to soar. And nothing weighs heavier than what is no longer meant for us. The ancient sages, the mystics, the lovers of truth have all spoken this in unison. The only way out is in, and the only way forward is through the fire of letting go, through the sacred death of who you thought you were, through the surrender of your need to control what was never yours to hold. You cannot move forward while dragging the chains of yesterday. You cannot receive tomorrow with hands clenched in the past. And yet we try. We try to run while rooted in pain. We try to love while guarded by fear. We try to create while bound by the opinions of others. But trying is not living, it is rehearsing. It is survival, not presence. And you were not born to rehearse your life, you were born to live it boldly, softly, authentically. Imagine the tree in autumn. It does not negotiate with its leaves. It does not fear their falling. It does not cling to what once brought it color. It lets go because it trusts. It trusts the cycle It trusts the shedding. It trusts that in the bareness of winter, its essence is not lost. It is simply preparing for deeper roots, for greater growth, for the miracle of spring. So must we trust. For to hold on is to halt the soul's movement. And stagnation is not safety, it is suffering disguised as familiarity. Do not mistake pain for proof of love. Do not confuse attachment with loyalty. What was meant to be a chapter was never meant to become your identity. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become in response. And when you choose to let go, you are not discarding the past, you are honoring it by refusing to let it define your future. The ego will scream that letting go is weakness, but the soul knows it is the greatest strength. For to release is not to abandon, it is to trust. To trust that what is meant for you cannot be lost, and what is lost was never truly yours. To trust that the space you clear by surrender becomes the sacred soil for miracles to take root. Let go of the resentment that burns your spirit from within. Let go of the illusion that someone else holds the key to your worth. Let go of the story that you are broken, unworthy, too late. You are not. You are not late, you are ripe. You are not broken, you are breaking open. You are not too much, you are finally becoming enough for yourself. You cannot move forward holding on not to the one who walked away, not to the version of yourself that played small, not to the belief that love must be earned. You are already loved. You are already whole. You are already divine. Not because you have achieved something, but because you exist. Because the breath in your lungs is the whisper of God saying, you belong. And when you let go, truly let go, not in anger, not in avoidance, but in love, you make space. Space for peace to return, space for joy to find you, space for the life you've been resisting to finally embrace you. The great mystics have all taught this. You cannot fill a cup that is already full, and your soul, my dear, is overflowing with what is no longer you. Pour it out, cry it out, breathe it out, write it out, release, not because the past was wrong, but because the future is ready. You are not here to repeat the old story. You are here to write a new one written not in the ink of fear, but in the light of truth. And the truth is, the more you let go, the more you rise. Like a balloon shedding its sandbags, your spirit ascends when it is no longer anchored to what was. Let go of needing to be understood. Let go of needing closure. Let go of the apology that never came. Forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you do. Because your peace matters more than your pride. Because your freedom matters more than your certainty. There is no virtue in clinging. There is only delay. Delay of your joy, delay of your healing, delay of the destiny that awaits you the moment you choose to be free. And yes, it will be painful, letting go always island. Because it is a death. The death of illusions, the death of roles, the death of control. But every death births a new life. And your new life is not waiting at the end of some distant road. It is waiting in the space you clear when you finally release. You are not what you've lost. You are not the weight you carry. You are the light that remains when all else falls away. And you are never alone in this letting go. The divine walks with you, not in front, not behind, but within, whispering always, trust me, there is more. So breathe, dear soul. Breathe into the empty spaces. Breathe into the grief, the uncertainty, the trembling, and let those breaths become your prayer, your offering, your surrender. You cannot move forward holding on. But when you let go, oh, how you fly. And so you stand now at the threshold, not of some distant destiny, but of the sacred now that invites you inward. The past does not ask for your attention anymore, and the future has no power here. What remains is this quiet, trembling moment, a portal to everything you have been aching to become. But only if you are willing to step through without the baggage you have so long mistaken for identity. Let yourself grieve what you thought you needed. Let the tears come, not as signs of weakness, but as evidence of your soul shedding the last remnants of its disguise. For tears do not drown us, they cleanse us. They carve out new space in the heart for truth to enter, and truth is never loud. It does not shout over your fears. It waits patiently in the silence beyond them. You have tried to negotiate with pain. You have tried to make peace with confusion. But there comes a moment when the only act of courage left is to walk away from the conversation entirely, to step out of the maze of why and what if, and to trust that not every wound needs to be explained. Some only need to be felt and finally released. Release is not forgetting. It is remembering yourself beyond the memory. Beyond the version of you that begged, that settled, that wore masks to feel loved, those were costumes, not the skin of your soul. And what a beautiful relief to finally disrobe, to step unclothed into the presence of your own authenticity and know you are enough, even naked of explanation. The past will not let go of you, but you can let go of it. It will knock, it will whisper, it will tempt you with old comfort, but you are not obligated to answer. Growth is not cruel, but it is firm. It calls you to walk with it, even as your trembling hands still reach for what once felt safe. It calls you not to leap, but to release step by sacred step. You do not have to rush. This is not a race. There is no finish line. The soul does not hurry, it unfolds. And with every letting go, another petal opens, another light breaks through, another shadow disappears, not because it was defeated, but because you stopped feeding it with your attention. Letting go is the most sacred form of trust. Trusting that there is life on the other side of the loss, trusting that there is clarity on the other side of confusion, trusting that in letting the old identity die, you are not disappearing, you are revealing, you are not becoming less, you are uncovering more. We carry so much that was never ours. Expectations handed to us before we had a voice, judgments inherited from generations that never questioned their pain, roles we were cast into without audition. And we carry them because we believe that to be loved, we must perform. But love does not demand performance. It asks only for presence. And presence requires one thing: release. Release your need to be right. Release your need to be seen in a certain way. Release the belief that you must earn your place on this earth. You were born with that place. You are that place. A living, breathing temple of consciousness. What more could you need to deserve your own freedom? When you let go, life responds. Not always instantly, not always visibly, but it shifts because your energy changes. You stop sending out the frequency of desperation and begin to radiate the vibration of truth. And truth is magnetic. It draws to you not what your ego wants, but what your soul has long been ready to receive. You cannot hold both the old and the new. Your hands, like your heart, must be empty to receive. So many cling to the rubble of what has fallen, not realizing that the clearing is the miracle. The collapse is not punishment, it is preparation. The closing door is not rejection, it is redirection. Surrender does not mean giving up, it means giving over. Handing over the illusion of control to the wisdom that has guided stars into place and breath into your lungs. That same wisdom courses through you now, aching to be trusted. It does not need your resistance, it needs your yes. And in that yes, you begin to dissolve. Not disappear, but dissolve into the ocean of what you always were. Not a separate wave, but the water itself. Not a fragmented identity, but the whole fluid, free, alive. You are not your story. You are the awareness that has watched it unfold. You are not your wounds. You are the love that continues to beat through them. You are not your limitations. You are the infinite wrapped in skin, pretending to be small until the moment you remember and return. Return now, not to what was, but to what island. This moment, this breath, this quiet invitation to be reborn, not through force, but through release. You cannot move forward holding on. So let this be the breath that loosens your grip. Let this be the day you stop asking for permission. Let this be the lifetime where you choose to be free. And as you begin to loosen your grip, first gently, then with the quiet conviction of a soul remembering its wings, you'll feel something shift that no language can hold. It is not dramatic, not loud, not an explosion, but rather a dissolving, like mist lifting from a morning field, like a weight you carried so long it became part of your posture, now softly falling away. You were not meant to carry what does not serve you, not because you are weak, but because you are sacred. And the sacred is not meant to be buried beneath debris. It is meant to rise. It is meant to be seen, not in a parade of perfection, but in the naked truth of your being. You are enough, not someday, but now, even as you release, especially as you release. There is a holiness in your surrender, a quiet reverence in your choice to open your hands, your heart, your identity to the unknown, because the unknown is not the enemy, it is the doorway. The doorway to the you that has never been tainted by fear, never been touched by judgment, never been dimmed by the stories others wrote for you. This is the homecoming the mystic spoke of. Not a return to a place, but to a presence. the sacred awareness that remains when everything else is let go. You don't need to know where you're going. The soul is not a GPS, it is a compass. It points inward, it points true, and it whispers not directions, but invitations. Trust me, this way. Let go again. Each time you let go, the path clears a little more. Not because it changes, but because you do. You begin to see not with the eyes of fear, but with the eyes of truth. You begin to recognize that what you were clinging to was never the source of your safety, your worth, your love. Those things are not given to you by the world. They are given through you by the divine essence that pulses in your every cell. Do not ask for more light until you are willing to put down the shade you've been holding. We say we want peace and then defend our suffering. We say we want freedom and then argue for our limitations. But the soul does not live in contradiction. It cannot soar while dragging the anchors of old identities. To truly move forward is to become weightless, not by denying the past, but by transmuting it, by blessing it for what it taught you and freeing it from the need to teach you again. The lesson is not in the reliving, it is in the releasing. There is no growth in replaying the same ache. There is only entrapment. So stop telling the story of your wound. Start telling the story of your rising, not as denial, but as resurrection. Every pain you've known was carving the capacity for more love. Every ending was a comma in a sentence that still longs to be written, but you cannot write it while gripping the pen with the trembling hand of who you used to be. Set the pen down, breathe. Let the divine write now. Let the silence speak. Let the wind rearrange the scattered pieces. The universe is not chaotic, it is intelligent, it is orderly. It knows where to take you when you stop insisting on being the one who knows. Control is not power, it is resistance. True power is surrender, and surrender is not weak. It is the courage to be carried, to be led, to admit that the mind may not know, but the heart always does. And when you drop into that space beyond strategy, beyond expectation, beyond identity, you enter into the flow that has no opposite. You stop swimming against the current of your own soul. You stop asking, how do I get there? And start living the answer, be here. Letting go is not a one-time act. It is a practice, a posture, a breath by breath unraveling of everything that is not love. And it is in this continual return that you meet your truest self, not the self that reacts, but the self that remembers. And what you remember is so simple, it almost slips through the cracks of thought. You were never broken. You were only carrying too much. And now you are setting it down. And as you set it down, the old ache, the unspoken shame, the roles worn thin by expectation, there is a silence that enters you like a holy wind. Not a silence that isolates, but a silence that sanctifies, a stillness that does not erase you but reveals you. For beneath the noise, beneath the years of holding and hoping, beneath the fear disguised as effort, there you are. Still, whole, enough. You do not become yourself by effort. You become yourself by removal, by peeling back the layers that were never you to begin with. And when the last mask slips from your face, when the last lie falls from your hands, you meet the soul in her original light, unburdened, sovereign, luminous, without needing a reason. This is what the sages meant when they spoke of awakening. Not a moment of fanfare or ecstasy, but a subtle dissolving of illusion, a realization so quiet the ego cannot grasp it, and yet so profound the heart weeps in recognition. I have always been free. I just forgot to stop holding on. You've been told to work harder, to push more, to keep climbing some invisible ladder. But what if the next step isn't up, but in? What if the path forward is the path inward? What if everything you've been searching for is found not by striving, but by softening? Softening is not surrender to the world, it is surrender to the truth. It is choosing to no longer protect what is false. It is daring to be seen, not as impressive, but as real. And in this realness, you find a strength no effort could ever provide. The strength of alignment, the strength of simply being who you already are. You are not meant to carry pain forever. Pain is a messenger, not a companion. It arrives to awaken, not to anchor. It knocks so you will answer the deeper call, not to react, but to feel. Not to fix, but to free. And when you finally listen, when you bow not in defeat, but in reverence, pain dissolves into wisdom. And wisdom does not weigh you down, it lifts you. So now, with each breath, with each moment of presence, you are unclenching, unlearning, unburdening. You are becoming not something new, but something true, like the sky after the storm, like the soil after the burn, like the heart after the release, open again, ready again, not in haste, but in stillness, not to prove, but to simply allow. And oh, how life begins to meet you differently when you no longer carry the armor. When you walk through the world, not armored in identity, but robed in presence, you begin to draw not from force, but from resonance, not from performance, but from purpose, not from who you think you should be, but from who you cannot help but be. You cannot move forward holding on. But what awaits you when you release is not emptiness, it is spaciousness. It is not loss, it is the revealing of more love, more clarity, more depth, more peace. And in that spaciousness, something ancient awakens. Not ambition, not desire, but a remembering, a homecoming. A gentle voice rising from the silence you once feared, saying, "This is who you are, you've always been this. So keep going, beloved soul, not in haste, but in devotion. Not to get somewhere, but to more deeply arrive here. And in that arrival, let everything not meant for your becoming fall away like ash. You are not losing, you are being refined, you are not failing. You are being freed. And so you walk not away from the world, but deeper into yourself. And the further you go inward, the less the outer noise can reach you. Not because you've escaped, but because you've remembered. Remember that nothing outside of you has ever held the authority to define your worth, your path, or your peace. This remembering is the quiet revolution of the soul, a revolution not fought with force, but with the stillness of presence. The soft defiance of choosing peace over drama, truth over illusion, surrender over control. It is a revolution that topples no empires, but liberates the one kingdom that matters most, your inner world. As the old identities crumble, as the need for validation dies its slow death, something miraculous begins to take root, a new kind of knowing, not the mind's knowledge, but the soul's clarity. You start to see with new eyes, eyes that no longer seek to analyze, but to witness, eyes that no longer scan for danger, but rest in the beauty of what island. And with this vision, even your past transforms. The stories once etched in pain begin to soften at the edges. The people who hurt you become teachers in disguise. The betrayals become invitations to deeper love. Not the kind of love that clings, but the kind that liberates. Love that no longer says, "I need you to be different," but "I see you and I set both of us free." This is the alchemy of letting go. The way loss transmutes into gain. The way emptiness becomes a portal to fullness. The way stillness becomes the loudest answer to every question the mind could ever ask. You don't need to understand every piece of the puzzle. You don't need to solve the mystery of why it all unfolded as it did. That is the mind's hunger, not the soul's. The soul is not concerned with explanation, it longs for experience. It wants you to feel this life, not figure it out. And when you allow yourself to feel not just the joy, but the sorrow, the longing, the grief, you realize that none of it is here to harm you. It is here to awaken you, to break the shell of who you thought you were, so that the truth of your being might finally emerge. The pain was never the enemy, the clinging was, the refusal to feel, the demand that life be different. But now, with each breath, you are loosening your grip. You are leaning in. You are saying yes not to the chaos, but to the growth it invites. You are learning the sacred art of trust. Trust in the unfolding. Trust in the intelligence of your own becoming. Trust that the same force that painted the stars and shaped the seas is moving through your life with just as much precision, just as much purpose. And from this trust, a peace arises. Not the peace of avoidance, but the peace of alignment, the kind that can sit in the storm and still breathe deeply. The kind that can lose and still feel whole. The kind that no longer needs outcomes to feel secure, because the security is no longer external, it is you. You who have walked through fire and still carry light. You who have known abandonment and yet now choose belonging not from others, but from yourself. You who have tried for so long to fix, to hold, to figure it all out, finally surrendering to the knowing that wholeness isn't found in answers, it's found in presence. You are the sanctuary you've been seeking. You are the safe place. You are the open sky that holds the storm without becoming it. You are not the one who breaks, you are the one who bends and blooms and becomes. So let it fall away. Whatever still clings, Whatever trembles at the edge of your becoming, let it go with gratitude, with gentleness, with grace. It served its purpose. It brought you here. And here, this breath, this moment, this sacred space of clarity is all you've ever needed. You have walked through the fire of remembering. You have laid down what was never yours. You have stood bare before the altar of truth and found that even in your emptiness you were overflowing. Not with answers, but with essence. Not with certainty, but with peace. And peace is always enough. The self you tried so hard to protect is no longer in control. The weight you mistook for identity has fallen to the earth like autumn leaves, no longer needed to define your shape. And in the space that remains, something breathtaking stirs, something eternal, something ancient, something deeply familiar. It is the you that has never wavered, the you beneath all becoming, the quiet watcher, the breath, the presence. You are no longer holding on, and in that letting go, you have done something sacred. You have stepped out of the river of reaction and into the still lake of awareness. And from that stillness, your life is no longer dictated, it is danced with grace, with freedom, with the rhythm of the infinite moving through you like music without end. You are not here to impress, you are not here to perfect, you are not even here to find yourself, you are here to reveal what has never been lost. The divine has always known your name, long before the world named you anything else. It is that name, unspoken, wordless, whole, that now begins to sing quietly from your heart like a song remembered in the silence. There will still be days when the past calls you back. There will still be echoes of old fears, old patterns, old identities trying to reclaim their place in your present, but you no longer need to fight them. You only need to witness them with love and let them pass. They are not you. They are only shadows on the wall of a light that never went out. And that light is you. You are the light you thought you were searching for. You are the wisdom you sought from others. You are the presence you begged the world to give you. And now, having released the grip of all that clouded your vision, you see not just with your eyes, but with your soul. See now how far you've come, not in miles, but in presence, not in accolades, but in awareness. You have crossed the inner threshold. You are no longer the seeker, you are the space in which seeking ends. So walk gently, speak kindly, forgive easily, live slowly. Let your presence be your prayer. Let your silence be your offering. Let your being be your gift to this world. You no longer need to hold on. What is real will remain, what is true will stay, and what is meant for you will arrive, not through striving, but through surrender. You are not moving forward in spite of what you've let go, you are moving forward because of it. And in this sacred unfolding, may your every breath remind you, you are already whole. You are already home. You are already free. You have remembered the truth. And the truth has always been this: you cannot move forward holding on. And now you have let go. And now you are free.
How will you experience your physical life when you have met this challenge of facing inward and living by the directives of your spiritual self? You will still chop wood and carry water, as the ancient Zen proverb tells us. You will not suddenly develop totally new talents or interests. However, you will have a level of awareness that lets you see things that have been hidden. Here are some of the insights that will give you a sense of peace and inner fulfillment. You will experience and enhance the meaningfulness of coincidences. You will become aware that there are no accidents in this intelligent system. You realize that everything that shows up in your life has something to teach you. You appreciate everyone and everything in your life. You are unable to entertain any doubts about the universal source of energy. You know that all beings are a part of it and receive sustenance from it. You are convinced that all weakness and falsehood come from a refusal to know this. You will feel loved. You will call for and accept divine guidance. This vital spiritual nourishment is felt in both your inner and outer experiences. Immobilizing fear diminishes as you feel the presence of the divine energy within you. All seems as it should be, even though you may not understand it. Your desires to right wrongs and fix the broken parts of your life are also part of this divine plan. You pursue your desires to serve God and humanity with clarity and peace. By focusing your inner energy on the beauty that surrounds you, you will receive that energy from your surroundings. With practice, this kind of receptiveness will become a source of strength and sustenance in your daily life. You will sense that anything that is destructive to one human is destructive to all. This higher awareness will lead you to the conclusion that Mahatma Gandhi came to, that God has no religion. That awareness will give you a loving energy that will help to bring all of us together. You will make a new agreement with reality. When your soul becomes the guiding force in your life, you will break the ordinary agreement with reality intellectually and physically. Your level of awareness will shift so dramatically that you will no longer feel bound by the agreement that defines reality for most others. You will experience surrender and acceptance. You will finally stop fighting and simply let go. You will accept that God knows what she is doing. This surrendering process will make you more effective in your sacred quest. You will become a waking dreamer. Everything that you are capable of achieving while dreaming will be possible while awake. The power of your mind to manifest what previously could only occur in sleeping dreams will begin to be your awakened reality. Some people take a lifetime to learn how to become a waking dreamer, to literally be in a dream state while awake. With your heightened awareness and the guidance of your higher self, you will become one of those waking dreamers. You will know the power and ecstasy of silence. As Herman Melville wrote, "Silence is the only voice of our God." All profound things and emotions of things are preceded and attended by silence. You will know that there is a spiritual solution to every problem. Problems such as addictions to drugs, foods, and alcohol have solutions in your higher self. By going within, you will see your excessive desires for something outside of yourself as an inadequate refuge for worldly pain. When you begin to achieve the highest levels of pleasure and euphoria by facing inward, the desire and the need for externals will simply disappear. Every problem, be it with relationships, finances, health, or self-image, has a solution in the sacred self. When you are peaceful, experience silence, meditate, and listen, really listen to God, you will be directed away from the worldly and toward the divinity that is within you. You will know what you need to do. You will shift from acquiring to sharing. You will desire less and yet feel more fulfilled. You will shift your attention away from yourself and take pleasure in serving others. You will live authentically. You will accept yourself, knowing that whatever behaviors you exhibited in the past, even the ones that may have been destructive and immoral, were a part of who you were at the time, and they had great lessons built into them for you to transcend. You will be able to say with conviction, "I am what I am." While some of the people who are close to you may find this difficult to accept, you will no longer be able to compromise yourself. You will be less judgmental and more forgiving. You will begin seeing that judging others does not define them, it defines you. Consequently, you will be less inclined to judge anyone or anything. You will also begin to forgive yourself. You will see mistakes as lessons for you to transcend. This will free you from the tyranny of self-recrimination. You have made the decision to be free.
The ancient Zen proverb says, "When the student is ready, the teacher will appear." Let's examine the 4 key words in this Zen proverb. Student. Be a student. Stay open and willing to learn from everyone and anyone. Every single person you encounter in your lifetime has something to teach you. The ability to create real magic involves, first of all, being a student of life. Ready. This translates to being a willing student. As a student who is ready, you are eager for what it is that everyone and everything has to offer you. Teacher. The teacher is everywhere. The assistance you need will be provided by the universe as soon as you convert your readiness to willingness. Once you are willing, you will find teachers in every niche of your life. When you, the student, are ready and willing, the teacher will show up. You simply have to look around, open your new eyes, and silently ask yourself, who is my teacher? Appear. The teacher is making an appearance in everything and everyone you encounter. Today, as you are getting your life on purpose and gaining the ability to make miracles show up in your life, you will recognize the teacher. Once you feel yourself open enough to experience your own purpose for being here, and you have opened yourself up to receiving divine assistance by being a willing student, you will be ready to believe in your own capacity for becoming your very own miracle worker. When I talk about the world of real magic and miracles, I'm not referring to turning rocks into gold or raising the dead or commanding the seas to part. I'm discussing whatever you have considered beyond your ability to create for yourself because of limitations you believe you have. I want you to cultivate the foundation for creating real magic in any area that you would like. You must begin by examining your life focus and beliefs before attempting to implement any real magic strategies. I have identified 7 beliefs that can help you tap the power of real magic. Number 1, there's an invisible but knowable life force within you. Try cultivating an awareness of the invisible life force that suffuses all form in the universe, including your own physical body. This is the same universal intelligence that directs a rose to be a rose, the planets to align and move through space, and you to be you. It is in fact what allows you to perceive and experience your physical body and this physical world in which you find yourself temporarily housed. Number 2, your thoughts are something that you control, and they originate with you. Thought is our way of processing and recording our human experience. Your thoughts create your experience of your health, wealth, and every detail of your world. As a step toward the awakened life of real magic, you must consider how your thoughts have contributed to a non-miraculous, limiting approach to life. Then you will know that you can also produce the opposite. Number 3, there are no limits. All of the things that you have become convinced are limits are products of the way in which you have learned to think. You probably were taught that logic and scientific verification dictate what is possible and what is not. But people who believe only what they can see or prove scientifically are limited by the current level of sophistication of our measuring devices. Be a person who accepts no limits in your mind. None. Number 4, your life has a purpose. The entire universe is an intelligent system. The invisible part of you, your thoughts and feelings, are also a part of the intelligent system that is you. What I'm asking of you here is to simply know you have a purpose, and then you'll be on your way to being able to create a miracle of your life in any and all areas of your choosing. Number 5, you overcome weaknesses by leaving them behind. You cannot outthink your weaknesses and limitations. What you can do is leave that stage of your life behind you and walk through the gate into a new way of being. You leave behind the belief that you cannot change, and you will leave behind the physical activity that has supported that belief. Picture it behind you, look back at it, and know that you no longer live that way. Know this to be a truth, and you'll soon see yourself creating real magic in your life. Number 6, examine what you believe to be impossible, and then change that belief. Take an inventory of what it is that you believe cannot happen in your life. Vow at the very minimum to rid yourself of these beliefs. If anyone ever on the planet has overcome a diagnosis of terminal, then know that such a capacity exists within all of us. This universal law that created miracles has not been repealed and never will be. Go to work on that thought right now, in this moment, which is the only physical reality you have. Number 7, go beyond logic. Try to let in the idea that there is another dimension that is very much a part of you, which has nothing to do with logic or scientific validation. You have never seen, touched, smelled, or physically felt a thought, or a dream, or a feeling, yet you know they exist. And so it is with a portion of your humanity that I call your soul. There are some who will never believe it unless they see it, and others who will see it because they believe it.
Change your thoughts based upon the wisdom of the Tao, and your life will change. There's many principles to live by in the Tao. First, remind yourself that there is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. Bring happiness to all that you do. You accomplish much by trying less. It's so inconsistent, isn't it, with what we live in the Western world. But the less you try, when I go out and swim in the ocean, and I do it almost every day, I try to do between 30 minutes and an hour every day, being out there in that ocean. And I just get out there, and if I try less, my arms just seem to know what to do, and the breathing just all works, and and I can swim all day. As soon as I try, as soon as I struggle, as soon as I start to try, the minute that I move myself into trying, it's like if I were to take this little cap here and drop it right there and say, I'm going to try to pick this up. I'm going to try to pick this up. This is what Lao Tzu was speaking about. So all of this, 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 I'm trying, I'm really trying, I'm really trying. All of this is called, in reality, not picking it up. That's what that's called, not picking it up. But when I just get easy and do less. See yourself, the Tao says, in everyone you encounter. A great lesson. Every single being, especially the ones that we read about who we're told are our enemies. See yourself in them. Know that whoever they are, wherever they live, they want what we want. They want what I want. They want to be at peace. They don't want to be always struggling. They don't want to be sick. They just want to be loved, whoever they are. I know the skepticism of that. It's like, yes, but, all of the yes, buts. But if they got it too, see, Lao Tzu wasn't speaking to, well, some are going to get this and some probably won't. He was speaking to all of us. Trust in others, the Tao says, to know what's best for themselves. Trust in that. Trust in the pliability, the flexibility of your babies. God, those little babies, they're so great when they're like, 2 weeks old. You can take their foot, put it behind their neck, stick it around here like this, put it in their mouth. They're so flexible. I mean, you can do anything. You pick them up, you turn them upside down. You watch them when they're starting to learn to walk. And they run, crash, they go down into the walls and all of this. And you think, oh my God, this kid will never walk again. Up they go, and they don't. Trust in their flexibility. Live without attachment and be generous. Be strong by bending. By bending. We need to learn this in our lives. We need to learn this in the world. It's not so important to be right. It's so much more important when you have a choice to be right or to be kind. Always pick kind. Always pick kind. Practice radical humility. Live low. Live low like the ocean. Stay low. And all the streams will come to it. That's why it's so powerful, because it doesn't lord anything over anyone. And rather than looking for miracles, see everything as miraculous. Everything in your life. There was a man who had a Tao experience, what I call a quantum moment. His name was John Newton. He lived back in the beginning of the 18th century. And he was crossing the ocean. He was a slave trader. He had a ship full of human cargo that he was going to trade into slavery in the most hideous practice that was so common at that time in our history. And in the middle of a storm, on his way over there with all of these people, he was 22 years old or 23 years old. And he thought he was going to die, and he thought it was like he must have hit a hurricane or something out there that was before satellites could warn people. And while he thought he was in that state of dying, he took out a pencil and a paper, and he wrote on the back of an envelope, he wrote, "I once was lost, and now I'm found." And it was grace. It was grace that taught my heart to feel. It was grace that brought me home. And when the storm was over, he had a moment. He reconnected to his source. Anybody out there can reconnect to the source, to the Tao, and become a being of Tao. Remember, it's a return trip. And you can make that return trip while you're alive. Remember the parrot. He knows much more than we did. And he returned back to Africa, and he released the slaves, it is said. And for the next 55 years of his life, he shifted and became the most ardent spokesman as an abolitionist to abolish that hideous practice of slavery. That's what he devoted his life to it. A former slave, it's like going from Saul to Paul, from being a person who crucifies and murders Christians to being the author of a big portion of the New Testament as St. Paul. In a moment, it's possible for any of us. I close this beautiful presentation on the Tao, Cecilia, with a poem that was written by a woman. Her name is Naomi Long Madgett. She's from Detroit, went to Wayne State University. She was named the Poet Laureate of Detroit, an acclaimed African-American poet. Listen to these words. It sums up all that I've been saying. I wouldn't coax the plant if I were you. Such watchful nurturing may do it harm. Let the soil rest from so much digging, and wait until it's dry before you water it. The leaf's inclined to find its own direction. Give it a chance to seek the sunlight for itself. Much growth is stunted by too careful prodding, too eager tenderness. The things we love, we have to learn to leave alone. Thank you.
These healthy people are, number one, probably most significantly, they are independent of the good opinion of other people. They do not do what they do based upon how other people are going to react to them. Now remember, as we look at the ego, and what it says is one of the components of the ego is I am what other people think of me. I am my reputation. And how many of us are raised and are raising our children, are seeing our children being raised in a world in which peer group approval, you hear it all the time. I only do peer group approval. I do it because there's so much peer pressure on me. You know, I have to fit in. Self-actualizing people have no sense of that in their life. It's just not anything that they even consider. And it's not just in those ways. They don't even notice appearances. They don't notice, one of the other qualities of these self-actualizing people is that they see the unfolding of God in everything and everyone that they encounter. Just like they see past appearances, but they don't just say it. It isn't like, this isn't just a talking game. This is something that they absolutely feel. It's like, these are people who see the unfolding of God in everything and everyone they encounter. And they just simply don't notice. They are detached from outcome. That is, they do not do what they do in their life because of some outcome that may come their way. He said, they are growth motivated, not deficiency motivated. There's a very big distinction between being growth motivated and deficiency motivated. A deficiency motivated person is motivated on a basis of repairing what is wrong with them and fixing it. A growth motivated person is saying, wherever I am is perfect and I can go so much further, but I have nothing to put down. I have no deficiencies. This is where I am. It's summed up in this simple little bumper sticker. You don't have to be sick to get better. You don't have to be sick to get better. So these are people, he said, who must be what they can be. They must be what they can be. Now, this isn't that they must be what somebody else think that they can be. This isn't somebody who must be fitting into something else, because another quality and characteristics of these people is that they are resistant to enculturation. These are people who do not identify themselves on the basis of a culture, their culture. They see themselves as a global being connected to all of humanity. And they do not run their life on the basis of the Tao. It wasn't until I read the Tao, and I don't mean just read the Tao Te Ching, but studied it and lived it for that full year when I turned 65, that I understood that virtually everything that Lao Tzu was writing about is what Maslow was speaking about with these people. That they don't, Lao Tzu had contempt for the law and laws. He said that people who run their life on the basis of what the law says are not Tao-centered people. Doing things because it's written down someplace for self-actualizing people is an impossibility. And one of the most significant things that self-actualizing people do is that they never place into their imagination anything that they do not want to materialize and manifest. They never put into their imagination their thoughts about what is possible or not possible on the basis of what they have been told ought to be in their imagination. This whole idea of understanding that our imagination is our sacred place. It's a sacred spot within us. And so we don't want to put anything in there like I'm only able to do what I've always done, or I'm only able to imagine what other people have conditioned me to believe that I can do. What's already happened. I don't place into my imagination anything that someone else has imposed upon me, like Ivan Illich. They place into their imagination, into their thoughts, that which they already believe is here for them, and they're just reconnecting to it. They're very greatly familiar with and loving the unknown. Wandering into the unknown, the mysterious is the most exciting thing for them. To me, said Walt Whitman, the most glorious thing in the universe is the most mysterious. And they're not looking for security. They're not looking for doing things the way everybody else does things. They have a sense of awe. Rumi said, sell your cleverness and purchase bewilderment. Go through life being bewildered. And that's how these people live their lives. It's like this sense of awe at everything. And when they would see something new, they saw something, even if they'd seen it 1,000 times before, they saw it like a little child saw it. In fact, self-actualizing people are very close to little children.
And one of the nicest things about the universe is that it pays the highest interest rate of any bank on our planet. The universe gives 20 to 25% interest. If you send out $1,000 worth of love, you get back about $1,300 every time. You get your 1,000 back just to prove that what goes around comes around. And then you get a bonus. And the bonus is there just to remind you, this is the way to behave toward everyone. When you give something out into the universe, you get it back. In the simplest form, if somebody's walking down the street with a scowl on their face and you say, good morning, how are you this morning? Here's a newspaper for you, or whatever it is, and you just say something pleasant and loving and nice, you will see something pleasant and nice come back to you most of the time. If you don't, then that's a test. That's not a, see, I told you it's not right. That's just your test. Most of the time, it will come back to you. A smile, you'll see, and you will feel better. Now, in the simplest form, that's what it is. That even applies to financial things. I remember a few years ago, my secretary was just all concerned about her income taxes, and she owed $500 more on her taxes, and it was the 14th of April. And she didn't know what she was going to do, and she didn't want to have to take out a loan and all of this. And I said, look, you've done so many great things for me this year. Here's $500. I'll just pay those taxes. I don't have any problem with it. I'll pay it. It won't affect me one way or the other. It wasn't really any great big gesture or magnanimous thing for me to do. It was just what seemed to be the right thing to do. The next day in the mail comes a check for $570 from Greece for an article that I had written for Family Circle magazine like 5 years before. It had been held up in some transaction in Greece, and there it was. The $500 back plus $70 as a bonus. That principle applies all the time for me in my life, I have found. And I didn't know that 10 years ago. I didn't know that if you give it away, it's like it's that circuitous nature of how each cell works. Remember the electrons that are circling around? They all just keep coming back. Everything just keeps coming back. And it works
And we are, when you think of an endless universe, we're still just tiny little cells. The same principle is working. But getting people who have been conditioned to believe that it's the bottom line and it's profits, and if I don't see it, then I don't believe it. And so in this technological, externally oriented, fast-paced kind of hectic society that we have created, we tend to forget some basic human principles. I tell people over and over again, your opinions are trivial. The opinions that you have about all the things and all the most profound problems in the world are essentially trivial, and they make almost no difference what your opinion is. It's your commitment to it that really makes all the difference in the world. You take the most profound problem in the world and understand that you're trivializing it by having an opinion about it, and you take the tiniest, most insignificant problem in the world, and if you have a commitment to doing something about it, that's the most profound thing you can do. We just talked briefly about something else that I think is very important, and that is the importance of modeling, or being an example. The highest place you can get to is be the person who whatever it is that comes out of your mouth is what is. And that's the purest form of sanity there is. That's the highest place you can get to, where whatever you say is what you follow through on. And that precludes maybe exaggerating for making a point or something like that. When you let something come out of your mouth, or when you behave in a certain way, that it is consistent always with the beliefs that you have. You're going to exaggerate something that doesn't need to be exaggerated. And you stop yourself. This is the place I'm at now in my life, where I'm trying to do this more and more, working at this, where I might have just exaggerated by a number or something. 2 million books were sold last week instead of 150,000 or whatever it is. And stop yourself. Like the need to distort your reality. Where does that come from? Why do you need to do that? No one cares. It doesn't make any difference. So that when you're doing that, usually if you're lying in any way, you know when you're doing it that it's a distortion. And after a while, if you distort enough, it becomes a habit. And correcting that habit and really going to work on that, whether you call it integrity or whether you call it the ability to live by example, and being a model, like with your children, it's so important to live what it is that you say rather than to be something different for them or try to pretend that you're something different than you are. I don't just get up in front of an audience, or I don't just sit down and write about something that's nice for you, but I don't have to do that. I am it. And what I've written in Gifts from Icus and The Sky's the Limit, particularly in the Raising Children book, is what I am living each day of my life. Getting yourself to that point, that important integrity point, where what comes out of you is exactly what is in the world, and that if you're going to try to be persuasive or be a leader or make a difference in the world, then you do that by modeling, by providing an example up and down the line. And anytime you detract from that example, then you are not being authentic. And being authentic is a part of being enlightened, and it's very important to have that concept down cold. You can't be cheating on your income tax and punishing your children for being dishonest and be an authentic, enlightened person at the same time. You can't be blowing cigarettes in their face and telling them about the evils of addiction and be an enlightened, authentic person.
I had a hair on the pillow the other morning. I held it up to my wife. I said, honey, what held it in yesterday? Something did. It's invisible. In our culture, particularly in the West, we have a tendency to believe that this is who we are. And we decorate our form, and we perfume it, and we insure it, and we build a house around it, and we mortgage that, and we watch it, and we look in the mirror, and we say, oh my God, look at what's happening to it, and there's another wrinkle that wasn't there before, and how did that get there? And it's completely out of your control. It's all handled for you. There's such a beautiful lesson to learn, such a beautiful spiritual lesson to learn. If you look at a vase and watch a sculptor make a vase, the sculptor shapes his clay and finishes it up. And what is it that makes it a vase? You think it's the material? You think it's the pottery? You think it's the clay? No. It's the empty, silent space inside that the clay surrounds. that allows it to be a vase. Otherwise, it's just some pottery. What makes this a room? What makes your house a house? Think about it. It's not the walls. It's not the material that has been put all around us that you live in. It's the space, the empty, silent space inside that makes a house a house. It's the space between the bars that holds the tiger, as they say in Zen. And it's the silence between the notes that makes the music. It's not the note. That's the note. What makes the music is the silence between the notes. And so it is with you. Robert Frost put it this way, more beautifully than I could ever say it. We all sit around in a circle and suppose, while the secret sits in the center and knows. And knows. You must come in contact with that empty, silent space that is within, not the form that encapsulates it. So difficult for us in a world of bottom line, left-brained, analytical, get to the point mentality that we find ourselves in. But all you have to do is look around. Look and understand that whatever the intelligence is that is in back of or suffusing all form in the universe that allows it to be that empty, silent space that some call God, some call spirit, some call soul, some call Muhammad, some call Buddha, the label doesn't matter. And I am not up here on this stage to proselytize for any particular religious point of view at all. It is not my purpose. It has nothing to do with what I'm here. It is to get you to understand the power of that invisible, silent, empty space that we all know as thought.
They weigh your body. And let's say it weighs, oh, let's pick a good number, 150 pounds, all right? And then life leaves your body. And they weigh your body instantly after you're dead. And it still weighs 150 pounds. So that your body weighs the same, alive or dead, before it begins to deteriorate. And if that's the case, then your life, this thing that leaves your body and your body still weighs the same, is weightless. Your life is weightless. You can't put a dimension on it. You can't put a measure on it. Who you are is that life. And that life is not in the dimension of material.
You know, most college majors, when you study, there's a very high percentage of people who major in something in college end up doing something completely different. I'm one of them. It's really about allowing. That's how Abraham puts it. It's just about allowing. It's just having a knowing. A knowing means there's a banishment of all doubt. You know, one of the keys to higher awareness, banishing the doubt. Just letting go of that and just allowing it to flow, that there's an opportunity. I was telling my daughter, the one I spoke about earlier, who's had addiction issues and so on, you know, who's trying to just get herself back after this program and get a job. And she said, it's just so hard to get a job. I said, if you just look around, you know. I said, just look around at, you know, within a mile of where you are. And the next day she called me back and she said, Dad, she said, I got a job. I said, what are you doing? She said, I'm working at a motel. I said, what are you doing in the motel? She said, whatever it is that they want me to. I just walked in there and said, you know what? I just went through this program, and I would just like to do something, like anything at all that I can do. And all of a sudden, she's carrying around keys. This is her second day on the job, and she's only getting paid a minimum wage. It doesn't make any difference what she's being paid. The idea is that there are opportunities in every single moment of our life, but if you're filling your mind with it can't happen, it's not for me, this is a tough economy, things are going bad. If this is the way that you think, it's like, what is the slogan that I'm probably best known for? When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. It's a quantum truth. You just change the way you look at it all and say, you walk into a McDonald's and you're working at the French fry machine, and the person that I'm talking about being is thinking, how am I going to own this place? I got to learn French fries first, and then I got to learn how to grill the hamburger, and then I got to learn so I'll just learn all of that, and then I'm going to figure out a way to own this place. And this is how they're thinking. Their mind is constructed that way, instead of looking at the things as wrong, and I can't do it, and it's not possible, and I don't have any opportunities. There are opportunities in every moment.
I could go for 2 hours and tell you how the very first book how Your Erroneous Zones got published. In 2 minutes, I can tell you that I was given an appointment I took the manuscript that I had written in 1974, that I told you about earlier, and took it to my agent, Artie Pine, had arranged for me to have a meeting with a man named Paul Fargus at T.Y. Kroll Company in New York City. And I went there, and Paul was so depressed and so upset, and he was just broken down. And I was a therapist. I had a practice there, and I said, I was there to have him see if he would be willing to publish my book. So it was supposed to be about me. And this man was, you could just see, and I forgot about the manuscript, and I spent 3 hours counseling him and talking to him and telling him, because the night before his wife had said she wanted a divorce, and they had 2 children, and he was just so broken up he just didn't know if he could even make it. And we talked for a long time. He became one of my best friends, and I talked to him and helped him through that whole process. And my agent called me after the meeting. He said, so, how did it go? How was your meeting? Are we going to get this book published? You think they'll publish it? And I said, forgot to talk about the book. Never mentioned it. He was so angry at me. It was the only time he was really angry at me. He said, do you know what it took for me to get this appointment for you? You're a nobody. Nobody even knows who you are. And you're not talking about the book. You've just blown the biggest opportunity you ever had. And that same evening, Paul called Artie and told him, I don't care what his book's about, I want to publish his book. It's a true story, true story. So it's like, when you forget about yourself, I mean, what's the lesson in that? When you let go of what's in it for me, and the mantra of the ego is, what's in it for me? How much more can I get? What about me? How about me? I want some more. The mantra of the higher self is, how may I serve? What may I do for you? And when you do that, everything shows up for you. That's when you follow your excitement. And when your excitement, what did I say yesterday? When you follow your excitement, you will be supported, and it will be effortless. Because you are now aligned with God. That's what God is, your excitement. What excites you? And what excited me in that moment, back in 1975, when I had that meeting with Paul, what excited me was what excited me every day when I had my practice and my patients would come in and I would talk to them, is helping somebody to get over what seems like a trauma that is just irresolvable.
The stewardess was standing there, and she said, oh, no. Oh, no. She knew who I was. I had been talking to her. She said, this is what I dread. I said, what's the matter? She said, there's 176 people on this plane. Every one of them is going to say something nasty to me when they get off the plane. They're going to blame me, they're going to blame the airline, and they're going to... I said, but you don't have to let that in. She said, what are you talking about? I said, well, you've got 2 packages, 2 suits that are protecting you from anybody coming to you with that disharmony. She said, what do you mean? I said, well, you got your uniform. I said, that's one package, and that's over the other package, which is your body, and then both of those are protecting or covering who you really are, which is how you choose to process all of this and how you choose to think and who you really are. I said, each person that comes up by you and says something negative or nasty, you can just let that only be a message to your uniform, to your package. That's not me, and you can remind yourself, they're not talking to me. They can't get to me with that stuff. They can't have that. I don't let anybody come to me unless they come with love or harmony to who I really am. So you can just say, well, I'm very sorry, and have a good one. And it's like, and you say, well, they didn't get to me, and they didn't get to me. They're not reaching me with that. And sure enough, she stood there and she watched as 176 people got off, and I'd say 150 of them said something nasty to her on the way out. And each time she just sort of smiled and said, yes, well, it'll be 2 hours. And she gave them instructions on where to go. And when it was all done, she sat down next to me. She said, that was fantastic. It's the first time that we've ever had a circumstance like this where I didn't let it bother me. I said, you don't have to let that stuff into your life. And it's just like in the meditation in the field. When those thoughts start impinging on the field, the pastel that you have created, you don't have to let them in. They bounce. I do it all the time. When I'm driving, and if anybody gives me, I don't take any of that inside. I just say, oh, that's them, and that's how they're reacting to my form. Having a quiet mind in a practical sense is really understanding that what I'm talking about is not just for discussion. It's for application. If you're the kind of person who has your mind filled with 10 different things that you have to do, and that is producing anxiety, stress, ulcers, colds, backaches, headaches, cramps, runny noses, all of the kinds of physical reactions and manifestations of that kind of thinking, then you have to look at how can you just get a blank mind, or how can you get a quiet mind? How can you just understand that, supposing you're thinking about, you got to get to work, you've got this report you got to get out, you got to get your taxes done, you got to stop and get some diapers on the way home. Now, the kids need to have bananas, and they've got dance lessons I've got to get them to, an endless catalog of activities. By using your mind to do that and to occupy it all the time, none of that is going to get done. See, all of that is going to get done. Regardless, if you're the kind of person who does those things, it's going to get done. The question is, how do you use your present moments? See, anytime you use up your present moment, or any time that you are thinking anxious thoughts, you're denying the present. You're using up the present moment. Instead of using it up in a productive, peaceful, serene, calm way, you are somehow believing that you can't get through this day or this moment any other way, that if I don't think about it and worry about it and be anxious about it. But the fact is, it's going to get done. Your taxes are going to get done. You're not going to jail. You're not the kind of person who's going to opt to just simply not do your taxes. You're going to get the diapers. You're going to get the report done. All of that you're going to get done. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in the position that you're in. You would be doing something else, all right? So if you know that it's going to get done, the question is, what's the most efficient and effective and peaceful way to get things done? I use the analogy often of when you're in a hurry, like when your body is in a hurry. That's when you're least effective. And that's when you always drop something. You'll drop the keys, and then you'll start sweating. And then when you start sweating, you find yourself getting more upset. You'll forget something. And you'll walk out the door, and you'll slam the door, and you left the key on the inside. Now you don't have a key. I've talked about when you take a shower. If you rush through a shower because you only have 5 minutes to take a shower, and you finish and you take your shower and then you dry yourself off, you didn't need to take a shower because you're already dirty again. I mean, you're already sweating. You can take the same 5 minutes and take a shower if that's all you have. And you can do it peacefully. The same 5 minutes. You can push all of the other stuff out, and you can just relax. And if you've got 3 minutes, instead of rushing through it, you can just let the water pour. You can experience the water. You can wash your body. You can dry it all off. And when you finish, you're not sweating. And you had the same amount of time. The nervousness and all of that comes from the way that you decide to process. Now, in the physical world, you understand that if you hurry and rush and are filled with 1,000 different activities, that you have decreased your efficiency. Why isn't the same thing true in the mental world, in your mind? If you are filling your mind with all of the things that you have to do, and you're worried about all of those things and get yourself all consumed with them, then you're still going to be less efficient, less effective, and you're still going to be cluttered. At a moment like that, you put on a tape. If you're going to drive, you got to drive. You can't get the bananas and the diapers and the report done and the IRS taken care of in the car on the freeway. You can't do that then. You're driving. So why not be here now, as Ram Dass says? Be here now. Here's some music. Put on a tape. Meditate right there. Don't close your eyes. But just, like, push it all out. All of that's going to get handled. But meantime, I'm going to enjoy this. My ride from my home to my office is 17 miles. I love those 17 miles. There's a million things to see in those 17 miles. I cannot write my books or get my speeches. I can't do any of that in that time. But I can enjoy all of that. I can be there with it. I can open the windows and I can let the wind blow on me and I can experience that and enjoy all of that. And when I get to where I'm going, if I've got to get the report done, I'm now prepared to do it. I'm not working on the report thinking about my taxes or getting the diapers or getting the bananas or whatever it may be. I'm here now in the moment. That's what meditating teaches you. Being here now in the moment. Quiet, joyful, peaceful. When you're there and you get your mind trained to do that, that isn't just like something you do for 15 minutes a day just to give you something to do for that 15 minutes. That carries over into everything that you do.
Every single person on the planet has within them the potential to be a healer. In order to make conscious contact with your inherent healing powers, you must first make the decision to be healed yourself. Reconnect to the disease-free, loving perfection from which you came is a succinct statement of what self-healing process requires. The universal mind of intention knows precisely what you need in order to optimize your health. What you must do is notice your thoughts and your behaviors, which are creating resistance and interfering with healing, which is the flow of intentional energy. Recognizing your resistance is something that's entirely up to you. That source is never focused on what's wrong, what's missing, or even what's sickly. True healing takes you back to the source. Anything short of this connection is just a temporary fix. When you clean up the connecting link to your source, attractor patterns of energy are drawn to you. If you don't believe that this is possible, then you've created resistance to your intention to heal and to be healed. If you believe that it is possible, but not for you, then you have more resistance. If you believe that you're being punished by the absence of health, that's also resistance. These inner thoughts about your ability to be healed play a dominant role in your physical experience. Becoming a healer by healing oneself involves another one of those imaginary somersaults into the inconceivable, where you land upright and balanced in your thoughts, face to face with your source. You realize, perhaps for the first time, that you and your source are one when you let go of the ego mind, which has convinced you that you're separate from the power of intention. From thoughts of sickness to intentions of wellness. The decision to create is the decision to intend. To create healing, you can't have thoughts of illness and anticipate your body falling victim to disease. Become aware of the thoughts you have that support the idea of sickness as something to be expected. Begin noticing the frequency of those thoughts. The more they occupy your mental landscape, the more resistance you're creating to realizing your intention. You know what those thoughts of resistance sound like. I can't do anything about this arthritis. It's the flu season. I feel okay now, but by the weekend it'll be in my chest and I'll have a fever. We live in a carcinogenic world. Everything is either fattening or filled with chemicals. I feel so tired all of the time. On and on and on these thoughts of resistance go. They're like huge barricades blocking the realization of your intentions. Notice the thoughts that represent a decision on your part to buy into the illness mentality of the huge profit-making drug companies and a healthcare industry that thrives on your fears. But you're the divine, remember? You're a piece of the universal mind of intention, and you don't have to think in these ways. You can opt to think that you have the ability to raise your energy level, even if all of the advertising around you points to a different conclusion. You can go within and hold an intention that says, I want to feel good. I intend to feel good. I intend to return to my source, and I refuse to allow any other thoughts of disorder or disease in. This is the beginning. You'll feel empowered by this unique experience. Then in any given moment of not feeling well, choose thoughts of healing and feeling good. In that instant, feeling good takes over, if only for a few seconds. Illness is not a punishment. You don't have a need for healing because you were bad or ignorant or as retribution for past life offenses. You've taken on whatever you're experiencing for whatever lessons you need to learn on this journey, which is being orchestrated by the all-providing intelligence that we're calling intention. In an eternal universe, you must view yourself and all others in infinite terms. Infinite terms means that you have an infinite number of opportunities to show up in a material body to co-create anything. As you view the sickness of the mind and body that permeates your own life as well as the rest of humanity, try viewing it as part of the infinite nature of our world. If starvation, pestilence, or disease are a part of the perfection of the universe, then so is your intention to end these things a part of that same perfection. Now decide to stay with that intention, first in your own life, then in the lives of others. Your intention will match up with the intention of the universe, which knows nothing of egos and separation, and all thoughts of illness as punishment and karmic paybacks will cease to exist. You can't heal anyone until you allow yourself to be healed. Connect to a loving, kind, receptive to healing energy, which is the field that intended you here. Be willing to accept the fact that you're a part of the healing energy of all of life. The same force that heals a cut on your hand and grows the new skin to repair it permanently is both in your hand and in the universe as well. You are it. It is you. There's no separation. Be conscious of staying in contact with this healing energy because it's impossible to separate from it except in your ego-diminished thoughts. By raising your energy to a vibrational match with the field of intention, you're strengthening your immune system and increasing the production of well-being enzymes in the brain. A change in personality from being spiteful, pessimistic, angry, sullen, and disagreeable to one of passion, optimism, kindness, joy, and understanding is often the key when witnessing miraculous acts of spontaneous recovery from what were called fatalistic prognostications. Don't ask to be healed, ask to be restored to that perfection from which you emanated. Let nothing interfere with the intention that you have to heal and be healed. Discard all negativity that you encounter. Refuse to let in any energy that will weaken your body or your resolve. Convey this to others as well. Remember, you're not asking your source to heal you because this assumes health is missing from your life. Come to the source as whole and complete. Banish all thoughts of illness and know that by connecting back to this source, filling yourself with it and offering it to others, you become healing itself.